What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Counter Punch podcast. Today we will be breaking down the entire UFC Atlantic City card. If you're new to these, my name is Lucas Cohen. His name, Rohan Borges. Now, usually we do a main card breakdown and a main card breakdown only, unless it's a big card, unless it's a big pay-per-view. But we owe you guys. We haven't posted for the last 2 weeks on this channel. And last week, we didn't plan on posting 2 weeks ago, but last week, we tried recording like 3-4 times, and every single time it was like a video or an audio.
Yeah, it was unreal. Like it felt like 10 times that we tried to record that episode. It was great. Like I loved the quality of what we did, but unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. But we're back. We're ready to provide another detailed breakdown where we just give you guys as much insight as we possibly can. And I don't see why we don't just get right into it.
Yeah, let's get right into it. Before I do that, though, we added a bunch of new channels to our Discord. Rohan's here now. He's doing written fight breakdowns, breaking down each fight, confidence level, all that. Also, fighter bios, the pros and cons for each fighter. And I added a few channels myself. A bunch of bets there for you guys. I mean, we've been absolutely crushing it. It's been like a 5-6 card winning streak. I mean, it's literally the best way to make consistent money betting on MMA. If you want that, we're doing a 3-day free trial, so you can just click the link in the description of the video if you want to sign up with us and make some money. All right, let's get into the first fight on the card, and it is Angel Pacheco versus Lwar. This is a fight in which I'm very, very confident in. I like Lwar. I think he gets this one done. He had a very tough debut against Taylor Lapilus in his first fight in the UFC. Lapilus is a guy with some of the best takedown defense I've ever seen, ever. Obviously, Lapilus lost his fight against Free Basharat, but Basharat is just a different level. I think that guy's a future, top 5, top 10 fighter. Lwar, on the other hand, I mean, the guy's still young, but he's really good. I mean, he is really, really good. He mixes in his takedowns with his hands very well. Although he didn't really show that in his last fight, it's because Lapilus is also such a skilled striker. He couldn't really do that. This is a massive, massive, massive step down. Don't get me wrong, Angel Pacheco, an absolute dog. He's gonna, put you in a war, and he's gonna be happy to do it. Just look at that Contender Series fight against Danny Silva. I mean, just went to war with the guy, got beat the fuck up, but he landed some of his shots of his own. But I do like Lwar. I think this will be a clear victory for him. Whether it's a finish or a decision, I don't know. But if it hits the scorecards, I see 30-27. I think this guy's due for a win in the UFC. Although he's only had one fight before this. But you can tell that this guy is really, really talented. I'll take Lwar. It's a tongue twister.
It is.
In the first fight on the card.
I got to agree with you, man. I think that after watching tape on both of these guys, and that Angel Pacheco's a dog, man. He showed it in his fight against Danny Silva. The guy can eat a shot. He can dish a shot. But I think what it comes down to in this fight is the fact that Lwar a lot more polished, especially in the ground game. I mean, he did go 2 for 11 in the takedowns against Taylor Lapilus, which is pretty, underwhelming just on the surface. But if you watch the fight, he was relentless in the pressure. He kept the pace up throughout the full 15 minutes. Like, I don't think that his cardio will really be a problem here. And he was landing his shots. Like, he was getting hit with the cleaner shots. I think Lapilus was doing a really good job of staying on the outside, avoiding the takedowns, and landing solid shots at range. But, when Lwar was able to get on the inside, usually was to attempt a takedown, but he was landing some solid shots. And I think that Pacheco, man, he's really, really hittable, as we saw. Durable to his credit, but hittable. And I just think that Lwar probably is able to consistently get this fight to the ground. Lapilus, like you were laying out, some of the best takedown defense. That's not the case with Pacheco. So I think Lwar probably gets his hand raised. I'm gonna take him by decision. I don't think there's a finish. I just think that as Pacheco's shown, like, he is just incredibly durable. But I just think that Lwar's gonna put together a really nice performance here.
Couldn't agree more. We both agree, and I think it's dominant. Let's move on to the next fight on this card. Petroski will be taking on Jacob Malcun. Another fight, another one that I'm confident in. Last week we saw a pattern, a lot of close fights. Like, in your fighter breakdowns, besides like Rose Namajunas, I don't think you had like a confidence rate for your winner like over 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Like, you were so, like, you didn't know who to choose, really. There were such close fights. Here we are, 2 fights in, and it might be 3-4 fights in. Nah, just 3, that I'm confident in. And I'm confident in Jacob Malcun over Petroski. Jacob Malcun, if you guys look at who he's lost to in his career, right? He has 3 losses, all come in the UFC. First loss comes against Phil Hawes. Complete fluke, in my opinion. Got caught in 18 seconds. His UFC debut. The UFC debut jitters were clearly there. I don't look at that fight whatsoever. Comes back, bounces back against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, AJ Dobson. solid competition. Competition if we're being real, but looked great. Loses to Brendan Allen. No shame in that whatsoever. We all know who Brendan Allen is now. Dominates Nick Maximov, and then was dominating Cody Brundage up until he landed a shot to the back of the head, I believe. And he got a DQ loss there. You can tell how good this guy is with the wrestling. I mean, he's really, really, really good. And Andre Petroski is a guy that I've been wanting to fade for a while. I did it in his last fight for the very first time against who was it against? Michel Pereira. I mean, Andre Petroski, he gasses out, and he can only take you down and finish you if you're extremely low level, like Hao Yadong or Hao Zong. Sorry, but that guy's like 3-3, 500 fighter. He's the only one that's been like absolutely dominated by Petroski outside of Nick Maximov, who's also, pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Common opponent there between the two. Both dominated him. But regardless, I think Petroski's a guy that slows down as the fight goes on. I think Malcun will be able to chain wrestle. I'm going to take Malcun by 29-28 or 30-27 decision. I really like Malcun in this matchup.
Yeah, I got to agree with you again here, man. I think I like Jacob Malcun probably to win a decision. But man, like you said, the guys he's losing to, obviously the Phil Hawes one was, like you said, pretty fluky just because it was 18 seconds debut, weird situation. Lost to Brendan Allen, but I mean, a lot of people had him winning that fight, and because he landed, I think, 7 takedowns in that fight, which looking back on that, this is Brendan Allen, a guy that's, putting together a nice run at middleweight right now, and Malcun looked really, really good against him. I go back to that fight that you mentioned against Nick Maximov. That was a fight I remember vividly. He was the underdog in that fight. Maximov was getting a lot of attention because he was part of the Diaz training camp and people were hyping up his boxing. Malcun shut down the boxing, looked better in there on the feet, honestly, and was able to just chain wrestle. That's what he's always able to do, just work his way to the fence. He might wear his opponents down, drag him into the deep water. And in his last fight against Cody Brundage, obviously before the stoppage, which was really unfortunate, it was like a forearm. It didn't really look like Brundage was gonna quit, and I don't want to say that that he just kind of gave up, but he was getting dominated in that fight. So Malcun's looked really, really good as of late, and I just think that Petroski, you mentioned it, he slows as the fight goes on, and who he's beating, there's not really any name value there. Who he's beaten in his UFC run so far. Like, he's had some good performances, but who is he beating is the question. It's a big step up taking on Malcun. I just think he's going to have the advantage in the cardio as the fight goes on. And Petroski's tough. Like, he's able to survive and advance. He's always able to just implement his style. But, again, I think the step up in competition is where he's just going to be a bit stumped here. Because Malcun's takedown defense and his takedown defense, which is where Petroski obviously shines a lot too in the wrestling department, I think that's going to nullify a lot of his offense. So I just like Malcun all around here. So yeah, I'll take him by decision. That's my pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that Petroski and Gerald Meerschaert fight, I think it was
that
UFC,
was the one. Yeah, he only let him take him down once.
But he also gassed out really, really bad. I mean, he started losing striking exchanges against GM3 in that round 3. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a good look at all. Jacob Malcun currently sitting at like minus 200. I'm willing to pay the price there.
For sure.
100%. I think this is a great matchup for him. Let's move on to the next fight of the card. Melissa Gatto versus Victoria Dudakova. This one at first, I was flip-flopping. I didn't know who I was going to pick, but you look more into this fight. Victoria Dudakova, for the first time in her career, is moving up from 115 to 125. Melissa Gatto is a fighter who hasn't looked bad at all. I mean, she's coming off back-to-back losses, but it's against Tracy Cortez and Ariana Lipski, two of the best fighters. Not the best fighters, but two ranked fighters in the flyweight division. I think this is a step down in competition. Jin Yu Fry, Victoria Dudakova, I'd say clearly beat Jin Yu Fry, but the fact that Jin Yu Fry was even able to have like a good amount of moments, not a good look. Jin Yu Fry is very, very bad in my opinion. I think that it'll still be a relatively close fight. I do think Dudakova is very talented. I think she also said she was coming into she had staph infection in her last fight.
Okay.
But I do think Gatto will be the bigger fighter in this one. And I'm going to take her to win a 29-28 decision. I think it's close, but I just think size will trump all in this one, and I like Melissa Gatto to get the win.
Agree. Once again, first 3, no differences between you and I. I think, look, you laid it out. Jin Yu Frey's taking you down like that easily. And look, Dudakova's talented. She, on the feet especially, she's very talented. She's got fast hands. She puts together combos really well. But I was really impressed when I'm watching tape on Melissa Gatto because especially in that Tracy Cortez fight, Cortez is somebody that is already going to try to implement a wrestling heavy style on you. But Gatto was honestly out wrestling her, and in the first round especially, I thought getting the better of her on the feet as well. I thought that she was faster, she was mixing it up, the leg kicks were beautiful, and she was able to take down Tracy Cortez a few times in that first round, I think, and even threaten with a little armbar that wasn't really anything. But still, just to show you that she is very active, and especially off of her back. She loves to get submissions off of her back, arm bars, breaking people's arms and shit like that. Like, she loves to isolate a limb and finish you like that. So I could definitely see that happening here. I like her to get a decision because honestly, after watching tape, I think she might even be the better striker, the faster striker, the more defensively aware striker between these two ladies. So I think that she gets the win here. I think she has all the advantages she needs. I could see a submission win, honestly. I don't know.
I'm hesitant to say finish at all in this fight.
Yeah, I'm gonna say submission finish for Melissa Gatto. I just think that it's really the danger of off of her back and on top of you. Like, if she wants to offensively wrestle, I could see her advancing chain wrestling to her back eventually later in the round 3, maybe, later in the fight, maybe that happens. But I could also see a situation where Dudakova maybe drops her and then Gatto just realizes that, I feel a lot more comfortable off of my back here. I'm going to try to work my way to an armbar from my back. Because she's done that in the past. So, I just think that she's far better on the ground, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. So, submission win. That's where I'm leaning.
Well, I am confident that this one goes the distance, but again, I can see that happening. Dudakova, I don't think is that bad on the mat, though, but I'm really curious to see, as I mentioned at the top, size trumps all, especially in this matchup. Not trumps all, but, especially with these, women fighters.
Yeah.
Dudakova's small. How tall is Dudakova?
She is...
I think she's,
5'5". But so is Melissa Gatto. I think they're both 5'5".
Like overall, is their build? She's 5'5".
They're both 5'5".
Yeah. Overall, Dudakova's build though is just smaller. I mean, I'm curious to see her on the scales.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see her on fight night. See how they match up. Curious to see the face-offs. I'm gonna pick Melissa Gatto. I think it's 29-28 decision in my opinion. Let's get into the first fight in which I don't really know who I'm gonna pick. Ibo Aslan taking on Anton Turkali. Ibo Ason 12-1 is his MMA record. That one loss comes to Anton Turkali back in 2020.
Yeah.
And here they are meeting up again in the UFC. You look at that first fight, Aslan absolutely dominated round 1, gassed out, and got submitted in round 2. I mean, this guy's pretty much round 1 or bust. Will he be able to knock out Anton in round 1, or is he going to gas out? It's literally 50-50. We don't know. I think if these guys fight 10 times... Anton may survive one fight, or Ibo Aslan may knock him out in the first round in one fight. I really don't know. There's a tough one to call. Anton has beat him already, so I feel like that's the safe way to go, but I don't know. Anton got brutally knocked out in his last fight against, who was it? Tyson Pedro. I don't know, man. I'm flip-flopping. I'll let you give your prediction first.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a strong take on this one either, but you broke it down pretty accurately and pretty simply. I mean, because that's what it really comes down to is, can Aslan survive past one round? Because all of his finishes, literally every single one, has come in round 1, other than one that came in round 3. Every single one, 11 of his 12 first finishes have been in the first round. So this guy goes all out for that finish, and if he's not able to get it, we've seen what happens, because Anton Turkali showed us what happens in round 2, and he submitted him via rear naked choke. So look, at the end of the day, what this comes down to for me is that Turkali, I think he's really talented on the ground. Like, I think his striking's horrible. Like, that fight against, Petrino, and then he fought Pedro after that. Like, both of those fights, horrible striking, just so sloppy, just bad to watch. But we know that he's able to, implement his weird wrestling style and probably able to land submissions if he's able to effectively do that. So I think that coming off of 3 losses, he's going to be so desperate here that he'll do whatever it takes to survive, maybe even jump guard at some point. We could see something like that just to slow the fight down. I think he's going to be so desperate just because if he loses this fight, it could be his last in the promotion. So I'm going to go Turkali by finish in round 2. I'm going to go repeat of what happened in their first fight.
The more I hear you talk, the more I'm going to have to disagree, actually. I think I am going to side with Ibo Aslan here. I mean, you look at his age, he's 27. When that first fight happened, he was, 23, 24 years old. You got to think he's been in training camp. He knows what's coming. He knows to slow down, take his time. Again, very close fight. 100% see what you're saying. We already saw this fight happen in 2020. But, I'm going to take Ibo Aslan. I think he knocks him out in round 1, or maybe he wants to show some cardio off and get a second round finish. I'll take Ibo Aslan. He's going Turkali. Let's move on to the next fight here. Conor Matthews taking on Denis Buzukja. Denis Buzukja, just a bad start to his UFC career. Fought Sean Woodson, dominated. Fought Jamal Emers. I remember I was watching that. I think I had a bet over 1.5 on like a parlay or something. He was juiced too. I don't know what I was doing, but he just gets brutally knocked out in round 1. We really don't know how good this guy is. And on the flip side, Conor Matthews isn't that good as well. I mean, this is such a low-level fight for 145. So low-level. Conor Matthews, he's been on the Contender Series twice, I believe. In that first fight against Francis Marshall, he got his ass beat against Francis Marshall. Francis Marshall isn't all that. I think he's a good fighter, but he's not all that. Comes back against, I forgot the dude's name, but long Brazilian fighter. Super long for his weight class. Super long and tall. And that's a fight he should have dominated. That guy is not that good. And you just see Matthews, like, at moments in that round 3, he was kind of getting touched up. I don't know, man. It's a matchup of who's worse, Conor Matthews or Denis Buzukja. I'll take Conor. I don't know. I might have to hand this one to you again. I don't know, man.
Let me think about it. Dude, it's so low level, man. And we've seen what Buzukja has been able to do in his UFC career so far. It's much of nothing, really. And honestly, I think that, like, in all of Conor Matthews' fights, like, it eventually turns into a war. And I just think that after watching Buzukja, he's good. Like, he's decent. He's decent on the feet. He has good head movement. And he trains at a good... Doesn't he train with Aljo and them at Serra-Longo? Like, he trains at a good gym. So it's not like he has no idea what he's doing or anything. He's talented. It's just that he lacks that, like, explosivity on the feet. He doesn't really have that oomph to his shots. Like, that, he lacks that. And I think that in this fight, especially as it gets longer, as we enter the second, third round, if we enter the second, third round, which I think we will, there might be a few moments where Matthews just looks like he's better conditioned for that environment and is pushing forward, implementing a higher pace on Buzukja. So, and that's what Emers was able to do, because that guy's a great striker, somebody that keeps a high pace, lands at range. Like, I don't know. I was not impressed with Buzukja in that fight. In the Woodson fight, it's hard for me to really pick him here. So just based off of that, really, I'm going to go Matthews. But not confident in this one at all, because, like you said, it's just pretty low level for a featherweight fight. But I'll go Matthews by maybe even split decision. That's my take.
I don't even know if I want to give you guys a prediction here. I mean, this is
it's tough.
It's
man.
really hard to call it. And as I said, I can't stress it enough. It's a battle of who's worse. Yeah. Like, both guys are not good at all. Maybe two of the worst fighters in the 145-pound division. I think you could make a case for it. But, you know, I was actually looking into betting on Conor Matthews when he was like plus 130, plus 140. I feel like that wouldn't have been a bad bet because, you know, it's such a close fight. But now, I mean, it's almost near even money. Conor Matthews got his ass beat against Francis Marshall. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to say Denis Buzukja, actually. I think it's a 50-50 fight, but again, Buzukja, at least, I don't know, but he could get knocked out in round 1. That's the problem here.
Yeah, he could.
I'll say Buzukja, literally 0 out of 10 confidence level, I'll tell you that. Let's get into the next fight here. Oh my God, Julio Arce versus Herbert Burns. I mean, straight off the jump, Herbert Burns needs to retire. I mean, when have you seen a finish on Tapology say exhaustion from damage? Like,
that's actually so funny. I didn't even notice that.
Like, what?
That's wild.
Herbert Burns is the definition of round 1 or bust. This guy will look incredible in round 1, and then he just falls off the biggest clips ever. I don't know, man. Julio Arce, it's not like he's a top featherweight fighter, but one thing about Arce is impeccable takedown defense. Some of the best takedown defense
95%
in the UFC. Some of the best takedown defense we've ever seen. Probably the best takedown defense we've ever seen.
Really. It's in the conversation. It's in the conversation.
I think as long as he defends the takedowns in round 1, it should be Arce. But I don't know. Here's one thing that I'm going to have on my mind with these older fighters, and you can call me crazy, but you got to think USADA's gone. Like, maybe Herbert Burns is juicing.
You're thinking that especially after OSP upset Kennedy 2 weeks ago, was that? Yeah,
Kennedy,
yeah. I know a lot of people are thinking
I don't want to talk about that.
I know.
But yeah, I think that Herbert could definitely show up on the juice, which Arce's a minus 600 favorite. I'm not opposed to a plus 400 sprinkle here at all. Like, I'll mention it. Oven St. Peru clearly on something against Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Yeah, go back and watch that fight. I mean, this is a guy that got starched by Felipe Lins like 8 months previously, and then he comes back and beats Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Like, I don't know, man. It should be Arce all day, every day, literally. I mean, this is a perfect stylistic matchup for him. But I just got a bad feeling. But I'll stick with my mind. Give me Julio Arce. What do you think?
I'm going to have to agree. Hey, for those of you that don't know, I trained at Tiger Schulman's Mixed Martial Arts. That's where Julio Arce fights out of for 14 years. Earned my black belt. I've trained against Julio Arce. I've actually fought against him for a round of sparring, nothing crazy. But man, I have a special, affinity towards Arce and that whole camp. So you could call me biased with this pick, but I think this is a no-brainer.
He's also minus 600.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Minus 600 favorite. It's no biggie there. But look, I just think this is his fight to lose all day, every day. Herbert Burns, this is his return fight to the UFC at 36 years old. I feel like the only reason he's back is because he's Gilbert's brother. Like, I remember vividly watching him against, who was it? Daniel Pineda, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah,
UFC. That was like the Cormier.
Yeah. Because I begged my mom for that pay-per-view. I remember, and the first fight I watched was Herbert Burns getting his ass beat by Daniel.
I think that was the first fight I watched.
Yeah,
as well.
He got his ass
it was like a
beat.
crucifix. Boom,
yeah,
boom.
just getting his ass beat.
As I mentioned, man, Herbert Burns looked great in round 1.
He did. That's
Just
the thing.
falls
So
off
look. To be fair to Burns, the round 1 is gonna be a worry because he's really good in round 1. He's not a bad fighter technically. It's literally one of the weirdest cases with a fighter where it's just you feel like every time his cardio and his endurance is just flat out letting him down. Just simply, he cannot go past a round and a half. So I just think that Arce, man, he's got every advantage after the first round. Even, in the first round, this dude is clean, man. He's clean on the feet. He's got nice technical boxing, great head movement, great footwork. He's safe. He doesn't really take a lot of risks. He's got great takedown defense, like you mentioned. So I don't know, man. I don't see a lot of paths of victory here for Burns. I think Arce is a pretty safe bet here. I don't know if he gets the job done inside the distance. I'm probably going to lean Arce by decision. But if what you said comes true and Burns actually shows up on the juice, man, that would be, because I feel like it's going to be obvious, right? Like, because we've seen so many times this guy get into the later rounds and collapse. So if he looks like incredible in round 3, we're going to know something's up. But I'm going to say that Arce avoids all that shit and gets his hand raised. So, yeah.
Yeah,
agree.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think the 95% takedown defense will offset any steroids Burns is on, regardless. Let's move on to the next fight here. Verna Jandrodova versus Lupi Godinez. I want to go Verna as a 2-1 underdog here. I do, and I know you're thinking about it as well. Mm-hmm. But if you really think about it, what's her path to victory? I mean, I struggle to find it. Lupi's looked really good in her last 2 fights. I mean, she fought Elise Reed. Looked absolutely incredible, and then dominated Tabitha Ricci. This is a step up for sure from Ricci to Jandrodova. It's tough. I think this is a close fight. I think both fighters will have success. I think a bet on Verna isn't bad at all at the price she's currently at, plus 170. I don't think that's bad whatsoever. I think this is going to be a very close fight. I think it's going to go to a split decision. I mean, I thought Lupi clearly won. Not clearly, but even having one judge score that fight for Ricci isn't a good look. I don't know, man. I want to pick Jandrodova. I just struggle to find a path to victory. I'll pick Lupi, but I'm not opposed to a bet on Jandrodova at the price tag she's currently at.
Yeah, I mean, this is hard for me to call also. I mentioned that I was leaning towards Jandrodova, and I mean, it's more so the fact that she's so seasoned, and especially on the ground. Like, this is a woman that has 13 submission victories. Lupi's really good in the wrestling department. That I know. We all know that. But it's when her timing of when she uses it and when she doesn't, right? Like, that's the thing that it always comes down to. Like, before the Elise Reed fight, we were talking about it on the podcast. We were both like, okay, Lupi should win this fight, but is she going to wrestle? And she did, and she won. But against Ricci, she didn't do it as much, but then she did it in spurts. But here, I think that if I don't know if she's going to be willing to wrestle as much, because Jandrodova is really good. She has great takedown defense, number one, and such good submission offense. So I don't think that that's really a great path for Lupi to take. I think she's probably better off keeping it on the feet because, look, like Jandrova's striking is not horrible, but I think Lupi's is probably a little more reliable in the sense that she's a lot more aware of what's coming back at her. Jandrova, it looks like she got a cross-eye, number one. I think that's pretty obvious to everyone. But that aside, she puts her head down when she's on the retreat, on the back foot. Like, she just throws her hands up in the air looking to block punches and doesn't really look at what's coming at her. So I think Lupi could have the more impactful combinations landed in this fight on the feet especially. But yeah, I think that if for some reason she thinks that she has a big wrestling advantage and tries to wrestle, Jandiroba could turn the tables on her and get a submission. So I think that's probably the likeliest path. But I don't know, man. It's a weird fight for me too. I don't have the best read, but I'll just take the underdog here. I think Jandiroba is very experienced, and I don't know. I could see some weird stuff going on in this fight, so I'm just going to lean towards the underdog. But no confidence in this whatsoever. I don't really know.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing really keeping me away from a prediction for Jandiroba is the age. I mean, Lupi's 30 years old. She's in her fighting prime. Jandiroba, what, turning
35.
Turning 36.
Oh, yeah, she is in
May.
May.
2 months.
You're right.
Yeah, again, I completely get where you're coming from on the Jandiroba side. I think it's not 50-50. I think it's a 52-48 fight. I'll take Lupi. I think the youth is on her side. I think she'll just do a little bit more. But, man, that price on Jandiroba is definitely tempting. Next fight here, Nate Landwehr versus Jamal Emers. Landwehr, one of my favorite fighters, man. This guy always brings it. I mean, that fight against David Onama back in that San Antonio card in August of 2022. Incredible fight. Absolute war. This guy almost got starched in round 1, comes back and puts an absolute beating on Onama. Then Onama starts having moments in round 3 as well. Clear Landwehr victory, though, and he looked incredible. Now he's taking on Jamal Emers. He's coming off a loss to Dan Ige, in which I believe he got knocked down in that fight. Lost by decision, but he got knocked down. I got to take Jamal Emers. I think he's just a little bit better on the feet. I think he's a little bit better everywhere, as a matter of fact. I think he could even mix in takedowns in this fight. I just think Emers is just too talented for this guy. But, man, if Landwehr sucks him into that dogfight, you really don't know. But, yeah, I think Emers... I want to say he's a smart fighter, but he's not at all. Look at that Giga Chikadze fight. Could have took the guy down, decided not to do it. Look at that Pat Sabatini fight. Hurt Pat Sabatini. Dives right into a heel hook. I mean, he's not. Will he be smart? We don't know. That's why it's tough, and that's why I'm not betting on Jamal Emers, because this guy has dog shit fight IQ. But I'll take him here. I think he's the more talented fighter. Again, if Nate drags him into that dogfight, you never know. But I'll side with the more talented fighter in Emers.
Yeah, gotta agree. I think, like you said, Emers doesn't have the best decision-making, but it just comes down to the fact that he has all the advantages here. Just on paper, he's the better, faster, cleaner striker, clearly. I mean, you watch these guys strike, and Landwehr's throwing looping shots, always looking for a brawl, getting hit a lot. Emers is much more clean. He keeps his distance, darts in with his nice 1-2 combos, can mix in the leg kicks, to your point, can mix in the takedowns as well. I think that would definitely help in this fight against Landwehr, who doesn't have the best takedown defense or wrestling in general. So I think Emers definitely can win this fight if he wants to and fight smart. But like you said, if Landwehr can make this a dogfight, which tends to be the case in basically every one of his fights, then it could go either way. But like you said, I just think the safer bet here is Emers because, man, the guy lost to Dan Ige. There's no shame in that. Ige is only fighting top contenders usually, so there's no shame in that loss. I mean, Pat Sabatini, the Jack Jenkins split decision could have gone either way. I thought he had his moments early, but I just think he's way more talented than Nate Landwehr when it comes down to that alone. I think talent alone, he clears him. So I'm going to go Jamal Emers by decision.
Should be a banger of a fight. Next fight on the card here, main card time, Chidi and Njokuani versus Rhys McKee. If this fight, and I told you this before the podcast, if this fight was at 185, right, where Chidi and Njokuani has always fought, I'd be max betting in Njokuani where he currently is at minus 140. Max betting, putting all my money on him, my entire bank account, all on Njokuani. Rhys McKee sucks. But Chidi and Njokuani's dropping down to 170. This is a guy who looks shit when he weighs in at 185. And now he's cutting another 15 pounds. I want to bet Chidi. Rhys McKee, again, not UFC level. I think he's complete fucking garbage. I think the only thing he has is toughness. I mean, you look at his last fight against Angelusa, took an absolute beating, somehow survived, and then rallied in the round 3. But I feel like, I don't know. Again, I want to bet Chidi, but I just can't. I need to see the weigh-ins. I need to see the face-off. And even with that, I mean, I just feel Chidi, after round 1, if he doesn't get the finish, where's this fight going to go? Especially after all that weight he's going to be cutting. I don't know. I'm going to pick Chidi to knock McKee out in round 1. I mean, Njokuani knocked out Marc-Andre Barrial, one of the toughest fighters in round 1 as well. But again, that was at 185. Big weight class change, dropping 15 more pounds. I'll pick Chidi. Low confidence as of now.
Yeah, I also have Chidi and Njokuani in this fight, and it's because Rhys McKee is not good, like you laid out. I mean, in his last fight against Angelusa, he just looked terrible, and just no striking defense, no head movement. He keeps his head right in the center of his opponent's face, right there for them to hit, and it's just like he can take a shot. Credit to him, bro. Though, like these fighters that can take that level of damage, you got to tip your hat to him. But at the end of the day, it's tough to pick those guys in the actual fight, and that's why we didn't in his last fight, and he lost. And I'm not going to in this fight either, because I think that Chidi Njokuani is far more talented on the feet. What it comes down to is, look, a lot of the times what happens with Chidi is he gets taken down and then it happens in the later rounds where he starts to get a lot more sloppy. When you're tired, this is the thing that people don't understand. Like, physical fatigue is one thing, but a lot of the times fatigue is mental. Like, you can just start doing dumb shit that you wouldn't usually do if you were, all together. And I think that as the fights goes on with Chidi, he just loses his sense of awareness and what's right from wrong sometimes. And he just finds himself in really bad spots. But it's not like he's getting one shot KO'd or anything like that. Like, he's just getting worn out and then ground and pound beat into the canvas. I don't think Rhys McKee is doing that shit to you, bro. I just can't see Rhys McKee in that sort of position where he's always the one that's looking to just survive and get to the next round. And usually, he can do a good job of doing that. But like you said, I think Chidi has all the tools on the feet. I think he finds a finish here as well, man. I was not impressed whatsoever with Rhys's last fight. And I think this is a step down in competition. It's a weird decision for Chidi to want to do this at 170, but I think the name and the matchup just makes a lot of sense for your first fight at 170 against somebody like Rhys McKee, who's just really low level. So I'm going to take Njokuani by first round KO as well, because I think it's going to be an onslaught, like right away, because he knows he's probably not going to have much to worry about coming back at him. Like, I think that he's going to go guns out and throw all the kicks in the world, probably knock his ass out with some nasty shit. So, yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just scared. If he doesn't finish this one in round one,
it's weird, but like, why is he? What is this decision? Like, you got to put yourself in his shoes. Like, if you're struggling to make weight at 185, there has to be like something going on that we don't know about that's forcing him to make this move down another class. Like, I don't know. It's just too weird of him. It's something fishy about it. It's just like he knows something that we don't, and he feels confident that he can beat Rhys McKee, because Rhys McKee is just bad, man. Like you say, he's not UFC level. He's really not UFC level. Dog. He is a dog, but he's been knocked out before. So, we'll see. But Hamzat is one of them. Yeah, Hamzat. You're right. We'll move on.
I'm gonna take Njokuani. Not as confident as you, but should be a fun fight. Absolute banger. Next fight on the card: Bill Algeo versus Kyle Nelson. God damn, I hate Kyle Nelson fights. Bill Algeo is one of the most exciting fighters on the roster, I'd say. The pace this guy puts on, it's incredible. Look at his last fight against Alexander Hernandez. Absolute war. Got the job done by decision. But man, Kyle Nelson has went from a kill or be killed fighter back in 2019, 2020. Kill or be killed, this guy was. And in the last 2 years, he's become one of the most annoying fighters to watch ever. The way he just slows down fights, it's unlike any other. Like him and Trey Ogden, they both suck, but they both win because they fight so smart, and it's really annoying. Kyle Nelson knows that he has cardio problems, so he just slows the fight down. Will that happen to Bill Algeo? I can't say so. As I mentioned, Bill Algeo puts on an incredible pace. As long as he just doesn't get warped into that Kyle Nelson bullshit, which we can never trust. You look at what Fernando Padilla did this past weekend, looked absolutely incredible. But in his fight before that, he looked like shit because he got Kyle Nelson, I'd like to call it, or Trey Ogden. I don't know. I think Bill Algeo's the type of guy that won't get warped into that bullshit. I'll say Bill Algeo puts a pace on Nelson. I think he'll break Kyle Nelson, make him look like the Nelson of old. I'll say Bill Algeo gets this one done by finish.
Yeah, I got to agree once again. I think Bill Algeo just the better striker here, and Kyle Nelson, he can slow the fight down, but when your output isn't a lot and you're just a low volume fighter, it's hard for the judges to really. And did he beat? I think he beat Padilla by unanimous decision, which is kind of insane, right? It was unanimous. Yeah, it was unanimous. So yeah, Padilla got completely sucked into it because, like you saw in his last fight, that is not his style. Like, he is an action fighter. Like, he just is somebody that just likes to go put on a high pace and just go to war. And that's like similar to somebody like Bill Algeo. We saw Billy Quarantillo fight last week. He's another fighter that likes to do that. Like those are those guys that just keep the high pressure, the high pace the entire time. I don't know how this fight ends up being one of those snooze fests like Kyle Nelson's managed to make happen in his last few fights. Like, I don't know. He lost to Billy Quarantillo. That's somebody that's a very similar style to Bill Algeo, right? So I think just based off of that, I'm gonna go Bill, and I'm gonna say decision.
Fair. Oh my God, you scared the shit out of me. What the fuck? Jesus
I'm changing
Christ,
it.
bro.
I'm
you.
saying inside the distance. I don't know. I'm saying because the only time Nelson's able to, survive every round and actually get it to the scorecards is like he's winning against these guys that are completely falling under his spell. I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever, and I think Algio's just going to be there in his face the entire time, and it's going to be similar to what we've seen earlier in Nelson's career where he's actually getting finished.
Yep.
I'm going to say that happens again.
I'm siding with you, man, 100%. Let's move on to the next fight here. Nursultan Ruzaboev taking on Cedric Dumas, or Cedric Dumbass, as we like to call him. But, man, I can't call him
he
that.
won you money, man.
I can't call him that because this guy cashed us big time. I believe our first ever, viral video. I believe between Instagram and TikTok, it got, 300,000, 400,000 views. It was a parlay. The riskiest parlay of all time between Sharputin Magomedov and Cedric Dumas. And Cedric Dumas almost made me have a fucking heart attack. I thought he lost to Bua Zaitar, or I thought he was going to lose. I thought it was very close, very, very close fight. I thought the judges were going to give it to Zaitar because they're in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Zaitar.
I was scared as hell watching that shit, to be honest.
But Dumas got it done, man. But I just don't think this guy's that good, man. I really don't. I think Ruzaboev, man, as long as the cardio holds up, I think he should dominate this one. I think I don't think the cardio will matter. I think he submits Dumas in round 1. We saw Cedric Dumas get submitted in round 1 by Josh Fremd.
Yeah, that's a bad
I think that was in round 2, actually. Yeah, I think Ruzaboev submits this one in round 1, and even if this one gets extended, I just think that Cedric Dumas sucks. If we're being real, I mean, how do you have such a close fight with Abu Zaitar? Bad luck, in my opinion. Extremely confident in Nursultan Ruzaboev. I'll say he gets this one done.
Agreed. I got Nursultan to win inside the distance as well. Like, you look at his last win, obviously it lasted pretty short. It was like a 4-minute fight, but he beat Bruno Ferreira, who's like a really talented fighter. I just think that a lot of people are scared. I don't know why people are scared about Ruzaboev in this fight. Some people are saying that his level of competition maybe not all that, on the regional scene, but I disagree. I think if you're talking about level of competition, what level of competition?
I guess it's the cardio. I mean, you look at all of his wins.
But Cedric Dumas doesn't have the greatest cardio either. So
but he's shown he can go 3 rounds as well.
He can go 3 rounds, yeah. But I don't know. 3 rounds against somebody like Ruzaboev, who's going to be pushing a pace in your face probably in the first round and wear him down with the wrestling, because we've seen Cedric doesn't have great takedown defense, so he's probably going to get taken down. And can he get taken down and get back up enough times to have a chance? I don't really know. I don't think so, because like you said, he got submitted by Josh Fremd, who sucks, man. That dude sucks. That's a horrible look. And the fact that Zaitar fight was really close, it just goes to show you what level Cedric Dumas is on. This guy is not polished whatsoever in the striking or the wrestling, and Ruzaboev is very polished, especially in the wrestling. So I think he's going to use that to his advantage, probably just wear him down early, get it to the ground, find a submission. I'm going to say round 1.
Gotta say round 1. I mean, look at all of his wins. His last 10, 12 wins have been submission round 1.
You're right. I gotta say
gotta be that.
Yeah,
besides the UFC debut, of course.
True,
We're both going Ruzaboev. I think Dumas sucks and he gets destroyed. Next fight on the card, Bruno Silva taking on Chris Weidman. Rohan, this fight reminds me a lot of Julio Arce versus Herbert Burns. I think this should be Silva all day, every day. Yeah. I think he should demolish him. You saw what Tavares did to Weidman, and Silva killed Tavares. Right?
Yeah.
But again, USADA is gone. Will Chris Weidman be on steroids?
Yeah.
I think it could definitely happen. I don't think Weidman is any good anymore. I think he should retire. He's 39 years old. I got to pick Bruno Silva just because of that. But you look at that Ovin St. Peru and Kenny Nzukwu fight, man. I just got to say it. This guy could 100% show up on steroids. This is why I'm not confident in Bruno Silva enough to bet on him. Same thing with Julio Arce. I think it's definitely a scare. I mean, man, you've seen fighters start to pop as well. Like they really, some fighters I feel like have figured out they have really good camps behind them to, help or people in their corner to help them, cycle what they're doing with their steroids. You look at Hussein Ashkabov, right? The guy, speaking of Jamal Emers, he exposed him in his UFC debut. Hussein popped today. This is a guy that, who's gotten arrested before for like kidnapping. This guy's all over the place. He didn't know when the Roy people were coming. He got caught and he popped. Who else got caught? Walt Harris.
Yeah, that
4
was
years.
recent. 4
He's
years,
just not even fighting, so I don't think he gives a fuck. I think Weidman, if he's on steroids, which I think he can be, this guy's coming off a traumatic injury, not if it was 3 years ago or if it wasn't. He knows that. I feel like he wouldn't be taking this fight. Why is he taking this fight against Bruno Silva? He should be getting demolished.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a chance he shows up to this fight on steroids, guys. I really do. Him and Herbert Burns. I do believe that. You can call me crazy. You're probably looking at this right now and saying, what the fuck is this idiot kid talking about? But if both of these fighters come into this fight looking better than normal, just like Oven St. Peru, 40-year-old Oven St. Peru, 42-year-old Oven St. Peru came back after getting demolished by fucking Felipe Lins and then beats Kennedy Nzukwu, a solid striker, not the best fighter, but he's a good, all right fighter. I feel like guys like Chris Weidman and Herbert Burns, who are also old, can do the same. I'm sorry about this rant, man, but I'm not confident in Silva just because of that. It should be Silva all day, every day.
Yeah, I'm not gonna speculate, but I'm just gonna take it for face value and say that Chris Weidman, if you just go off of his last fight against Tavares, how can you possibly pick him in this fight? And we don't want to do MMA and math here, but like you said, Tavares, who he's not a bad fighter. We've known this about Brad. Like, he's solid. He got destroyed by Bruno, so it's like, I don't see how Weidman wins this fight unless he's able to successfully through 3 rounds implement a wrestle heavy style, which obviously that's possible, I guess, especially if he was on PEDs, because Bruno Silva's been a guy that's been able to be controlled on the ground. He's got submitted before. Who'd he got subbed by? Petroski?
Gerald Mearshart.
I don't know. Mearshart got him. Yep. Rear naked choke. And then Brendan Allen also submitted him. So, yeah, this guy has been taken down and submitted in the past. But Weidman, man, what is he now? 35, 36 years old? Like, how is he doing this coming off of a broken leg? He's looked horrible in his last fight. I just don't
39.
39. That's even worse. I cannot be confident picking him whatsoever in any fight moving forward, let alone against Bruno Silva, who's really talented on the feet. So, I think he's going to win, and inside the distance is on the table, man. It's on the table for sure.
I think he can knock him out.
Yeah, I think he can knock him out, but I'll say decision. But he could definitely end this one early. But either way, Bruno Silva, very confident in that, as are you.
No, not as am I. I think fucking Weidman could show up on steroids.
Yeah, because of the steroids. But if he wasn't on steroids, man, this is not even close.
Literally
and that sucks, man, that we have to deal with that. Like, that we have to really sit here and speculate about these older fighters, particularly because of the lack of USADA. And Conor was talking about it on Ariel's show the other day. About how it's interesting, like there's a new testing pool that's coming at the same time, it's continuing with the constant testing, but is it really that level of strict testing that it was before with USADA? So I probably not. I hope he's not on steroids, man, because that would be tragic.
I hope he is. The fuck? Chris Weidman's a legend, bro. Go get your win.
I guess so.
Get on roids. Let's do it. Whatever. Let's move on to the next fight. Co-main event: Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. We'll keep this one short and sweet. I feel like if this was 4 years ago, prime Vicente Luque, he absolutely mauls Joaquin Buckley, kills him. But this is 2024 Vicente Luque. This is a guy who had a brain hemorrhage after getting brutally knocked out for the first time in his career against Jeff Neal. Brain hemorrhage. I don't think we have ever seen that before. Comes back against RDA, barely beats RDA, right? Close fight, went the distance, wrestles. We've never seen Vicente Luque wrestle in his career. And one thing that stuck out in his post-fight interview says that he was scared to get hit by RDA. He was scared to get hit. This guy's now fighting in front of a crowd. He's fighting against Joaquin Buckley. And Buckley's going to put that pressure on him. Buckley's got, he's got a crazy build, but he's also got great cardio. Man, I think Buckley, man, I'll tell you right now, myself and my Discord, we got him at the plus money price at plus 120. I'll give that out to you guys right here. But I would not say bet on it at this point where the money, he's like a slight favorite now. I wouldn't do that just because Buckley, he hasn't really beat anybody, that's good at 170. He knocked out Fialo, horrible. He beat Alex Morono. He's all right. This is a big step up, regardless if it's old Luque or new Luque. But, man, brain hemorrhage, not even 2 years ago. and saying he's scared to get hit against a guy in Buckley with the most vicious knockout of all time.
Yeah.
I think that's a masterclass at plus money for me right there. I'll take Buckley. Got him at plus money as well.
I'm going to take Vicente Luque in this fight. And this is one that I've been flip-flopping in my mind a lot because, as you just said, Buckley, he's the younger fighter. Luque's probably not looked the best as of late. Obviously did not look good against Jeff Neal. Got his ass beat to a pulp. And then wrestled against RDA, like you said, was scared to get hit. That's not a good sign. But I think that...
What, though?
Buckley... How? You're saying how about a fighter that was just an underdog? You're saying how?
How does Luque win?
Oh, I mean, he just out-point fights him. I mean, we've seen this guy get knocked out by Chris Curtis because he got his leg caught and put to sleep. I mean, that dude, he is not the cleanest striker, and you cannot convince me of that. Look, like, Luque is not clean, but I want to go back to that Jeff Neal fight because I don't think people give Neal enough credit for what he was doing. He looked like he didn't look like that against Ian Gary. If you watch those two fights, you would think Jeff Neal is a completely different fighter. He looked incredible against Luque, was putting combinations together like so beautifully, mixing it up to the body, putting pain against the fence. Like, Luque didn't have much to do, but that is not the type of striker that Buckley is. Like, Buckley is not a calculated striker that can break you down like that with long thought out combinations like that. He's not that type of guy. And I think that Luque is probably going to have a little bit easier of a time seeing things because Buckley throws, wild loopy shots pretty much one at a time. Like, he's not really somebody that's looking to like, he has a high pace, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's calculating so accurate with his striking. Like, he's pretty wild in his approach sometimes. And I just think that Luque is going to be able to, I could see him doing something similar to what he did against RDA and trying to wrestle again because of the fact that, if he's scared to strike, I mean, he's probably got the height advantage in this fight. He could probably, wear Buckley down in a few wrestling exchanges where he just hangs over him and wears his weight on him for a little bit to slow him down. Obviously, Buckley's cardio is the issue there, and Luque's cardio hasn't looked the best recently, but he went 5 rounds with RDA, so that's pretty impressive. And I don't know, man. I just think that it comes down to the fact that he's just more clean, man. He's a cleaner striker, and that Curtis knockout from Buckley, I think it's one that sticks with me a lot because he got a little too ahead of himself, which he can tend to do. He got head kicked by Alessio De Show all these years ago. That was another situation where he just got a little too crazy, a little too ahead of himself. And I could see that happening with a big name like Luque. Like, he's looking to make a statement here against somebody that's, a top 10 name or a top 13 name or something like that. So I could see him getting a little overzealous and just losing himself a little bit. So I'll take Luque by decision. That's my pick.
But all these fights you're mentioning where he seemed to have fucked up, we're at 185. I mean, this guy was not meant for that weight class whatsoever. This is a guy that's 5'9", probably 5'8".
Yeah.
UFC tends to lie about heights. This guy's 5'9", right? This guy's now dropping down to what seems to be his natural weight class. I do think that I think he'll just put the violence on. And again, one thing where I just put a hole in your case here. You say that Luque will be able to, wear on him against the fence, but as you see, more recently, the judges are, scoring damage over control even more. I mean, is Luque going to even do damage in this fight up against the fence? You look at that RDA fight. Yeah, he was on the fence, landing probably tiny knees and scoring takedowns and holding RDA down for 2-3 seconds. But how about the damage? I mean, you look at that Isaac Dolgarian versus Christian Rodriguez fight. In my eyes, scoring a fight like I've always scored a UFC fight. The entire, 4 or 5 years I've watched the UFC and been a super fan. I'd score that for Dolgarian all day, every day. But Dolgarian didn't land a single punch that round. All Rodriguez had to do was land 2-3 shots, despite getting controlled for the entire round. And he got it done. I don't know. I see what you're saying. It's a massive...
That's definitely a trend, but it's not like the judges are doing that every time.
I'd say they're doing it every time.
We've seen, like, even last week, I was scared that would be the case because for a lot of the time, like, Rose was being controlled.
Yeah, but Ribas wasn't...
And Ribas was landing a lot. I mean, Rose was getting her down, but not doing like.
But Ribas wasn't even. Ribas was missing shots.
I didn't think she won that fight either. But I'm not. This is not. But look at. Tell me every time they do that now.
Look at Montserrat Randone versus Zelyankova last week.
She was getting pieced up on the feet.
But bro, control.
I don't think Luque is gonna get pieced up. Like I don't think there's a case where Buckley's gonna piece up Luque like Jeff Neal would.
I think get dropped.
If he gets dropped, then sure he's gonna lose the round. And this is a 3-round fight. Also, that let's remember that this is a 3-round fight, right? This is not a 5-round co-main event. True. Like this is a fight where Luque is not gonna have to worry about the later stages of the fight. But also that Jeff Neal fight was a 3-round fight. So I just don't think that Buckley's that type of guy that's gonna be able to technically wear on Luque with pinpoint shots that's gonna really eat at him over time. Like I think that he's gonna have to evade some big looping powerful shots. But at the end of the day, if he's able to keep everything in front of him, land his 1-2s, and just march forward and somehow get some control time, whether it's against the cage or even if he's able to just trip him here and there. Even if Buckley gets that back up, I think the judges still hold some value to that. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a close fight. That's why the line is what it is. It's a damn near pick 'em. So either way, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad we had an argument, our first argument of the night. But yeah, it's time to move on to the main event. Aaron Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot. First of all, let me say, if this was a 3-round fight, I'd probably be picking Manon Fiorot, to be honest. But Fiorot gasses. I wouldn't say she gasses, but she slows down. You look at that Rose Namajunas versus Fiorot fight. Not really any grappling involved in that fight, and she slowed down massively in round 3 and clearly lost round 3 to Rose Namajunas. This is a 5-round fight now, and wrestling's going to be implemented from Blanchfield. I think Blanchfield will drop one of the first 2 rounds, might drop both rounds, but I think 3, 4, 5 will be so clear for Blanchfield. Even if it gets there, I could see a late submission here for Blanchfield. Not only that, it's in front of her hometown, New Jersey. Not her hometown, but home state, New Jersey. Yeah, I just think 5 rounds favors Blanchfield all day, every day, and you can't count that out whatsoever. I'm going Aaron Blanchfield here.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much that simple. But also, I'd like to point out that in that Tyler Santos fight specifically, I was watching tape of Blanchfield today. She looked really, really good on the feet. And Fiorot is not somebody like, she's powerful and she's big. She's imposing. Like, that's her thing. And especially against Rose, I think that was her demise in that first fight. Because Rose was moving up. And for, a strawweight moving up to flyweight, that alone can be intimidating. But then to have to face literally, probably, in my opinion, the biggest flyweight in the division in Fiorot, that's even more daunting of a task. So I just think that that was hard for Rose, but Fiorot definitely showed her size and her ability in that fight. But also, that gave her a big advantage alone in that fight. And Blanchfield's naturally a flyweight. She's a natural flyweight. She was doing really, really well against Tyler Santos, moving her head, doing just enough she landed really good shots on Tyler Santos and used her hands to set up the takedowns. And when she does that, man, when she chain wrestles against you, I mean, there's really not much you can do. And we saw against Jessica Andrade, who's a BJJ black belt, like, it's really nothing you can do when she gets to your back and when she's able to even just get you in side control even on the mat. If she's able to advance to a position like that, this could be over for Fiorot quick if she's able to somehow get to crucifix, which is a position she loves. She did that against Molly McCann, right?
Yep.
Got her into crucifix, was pounding her face in. Like, I could see something like that happening, but like you said, later in the fight where Fiorot tends to struggle because Blanchfield's got cardio for days. I think the home crowd will definitely help her. She's another fighter, I believe, that did have a stint at Tiger Showman's, which is definitely just another interesting fact. But yeah, I'm going to go with Blanchfield. I think that she's more well-rounded by a mile. I think that on the feet, it's going to be close. Like, honestly, I believe on the feet, it's a lot closer than people think. Obviously, Fiorot has the power advantage, but when this fight hits the mat, it is clearly, totally Aaron Blanchfield all day, every day. So I'm going to give her the advantage. I think she is going to earn herself a title shot, and it's going to be a pretty good performance on her part. That's
and we may not see the winner of this fight for until like 2025, right? Yeah. Because Shevchenko, Grasso, they're currently filming The Ultimate Fighter. Mm-hmm. They'll probably have their fight at the Sphere, which is in September. Yeah. Meaning that the next defense probably won't come until February, March. So, watch this fight, enjoy this fight. It's a banger. I know it's women. I know a lot of you guys may not like
good
that.
Good fight, bro. Yeah, this is a high level fight.
It's going to be a close fight. I think we're both going to go Blanchfield, but it's going to be fun as fuck. Folks, that's all we got for you today. That was a 50-minute fucking episode. Jesus Christ. Full card breakdown, 14 fights. We just cranked it out. And we hope you enjoyed. Any final words?
No, man. Enjoyed this card. I'm going to try to be there. I know you're going. I'm going to try to make it happen.
Come on.
I'd love to be
home
there.
Home state?
I know, man. Home state is mixing it a lot more enticing. I might have to be there. I think it's like 60-40 right now. I'm going to be there. But we'll see. Either way, y'all enjoy. We will see y'all on the other side. For now.
If you want our UFC bets, again, we've been on a heater. Click the link in the description of this video, and you can get a free trial as well. It's been Lucas. It's been Rohan. Deuces.
Peace.